Hello again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. We're continuing on with the Rivulet shawl. We're on row 7, and we're going to hop right in. I still have my size I 5.5mm hook, my worsted weight yarn, and our project thus far. Now, as I said before in the last video, rows 7 through 12, it's the full repeat for the pattern, and that's why I wanted to do this video separately. There is a method to my madness. It most certainly is madness, but there's a method. So, in the last row, we created a new eyelet space, and that is something to keep in mind, because that is going to be sort of the odd point of each of our 4 quadrants. You know, I did stress that the first and last stitch of each quadrant remains the same, where it's 2 in each, and each quadrant is separated by a chain 2 space. This is no exception. So, continuing on at the beginning of row 7, we're going to start by chaining up 3, and you'll have to excuse my rambling, but I like to do a recap from time to time. So in the first stitch, after chaining up 3, we do a double crochet into the first stitch and a double crochet into each of the next 4 doubles. Now keep in mind that yes, for each quadrant you start off and end with 2 in each. However, right now we are still within the quadrant. So this stitch that I'm working in right now, before the chain 1 space, we are not doing 2 in 1 stitch. No, you just leave it as it is, just 1 in that stitch. Then chain 1, double crochet into the next double crochet. You know, because if you were to do 2 doubles in this one and then 2 in this one, this thing would grow to astronomical sizes in no time. So, but we don't want that. We want this to grow at a reasonable rate. So we have our double crochet in here, and then into the next 3 doubles, 1 in each. You know, I almost made that mistake more than once while I was initially crocheting this piece, so I'm just passing on that information. All right, so now this is the last stitch of this quadrant, as you can see. So in this one, we do 2 double crochets in the same stitch. Now, as you are progressing, it will be easier to make the mistake because your quadrants are going to be huge, and there are going to be a lot of these chain 1 spaces, but just be mindful and you can't go wrong. So we reached the end of the quadrant, so chain 2, and then into this first double, 2 doubles, and then into the next 4 double crochets, 1 in each. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 1, 1 in each for the next 4, so that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, then 2 in the last stitch here, because this is the last stitch of our quadrant, chain 2, then 2 in the first, then 1 in each for the next 4, chain 1, 1 in each for the next 4. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then 2 in the last one. Chain 2, 2 in the first, one in each for the next 4, okay, almost there. Chain 1, one in each for 4, and 3, and 4, and then 2 in the last. All right, here we go. Ta-da! All right. So our pattern, as you can see, is pretty simplistic, which I really, really like. Yet, as we keep going, there are going to be more of these rivulet spaces as we keep going, which, to me, it's a lot of fun. Love it. All right, but right now, it's just going to keep going on in this fashion for the next couple of rows. So we're going to keep on keeping on with row 8. Alrighty. Now, row 8, I almost made a mistake. Just to keep in mind, when I finished my last row, I didn't add 2 double crochets into that last stitch. That will throw you off. So what I also recommend, again, a little aside, what I would recommend is that before you continue on, make sure that in each quadrant, the first and last double crochet of each quadrant has 2 in it. Otherwise, you will run into problems. Trust me. I've done this before. I almost just did it now. Otherwise, I wouldn't say anything. Okay? So further on, let's chain up 3, turn the work. All of my little tips and things, it's not meant to be redundant nor boring. It's meant to help you save some time, grief, and pulling out your hair. So into the first, we do a double crochet into that same stitch so that we've got 2 in the first. Then for the next 5 double crochets, 1 in each. That's 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. Chain 1, skip over that chain 1, going to the next 5, and then 2 in the last. And that's kind of the funny thing about very simple patterns. Yes, they can be simple, but if you're not paying attention to minor details can become major details if you're not careful. So we've got 4, and 1 more for a total of 5, and then 2 in the last double crochet of the quadrant. Like so. Chain 2, 2 doubles in the first, then 1 in each for the next 5, and 5, there we go. And then chain 1, skip that chain space, go into the next 5, 1 in each. And then 2 in the last double crochet for this quadrant. Okay. And then chain 2, 2 in the first, and then 1 in each for the next 5. 4 and 5, chain 1, skip that chain space, go into the next 5, 1 in each, and then 2 in the last one for this quadrant. Chain 2, skip that chain 2 space, going to that first double with 2 doubles, 1 double into each of the next 5, there we go, chain 1, 1 in each for the next 5, and then 2 in the last. Okay, so we've got our 5, then 2 in the last. And there we go. That is row 8. And, it's always good to double check as you go, because it's easy, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of stitching each row. So when you make a mistake, it pains to see me, have to see anybody rip out their work. So always double check, especially if there's, 2 doubles at the beginning and end of each quadrant. And we shall continue on with row 9. All right, row 9. Okay, this is going to seem like old hat to you guys, but I'm going to start by chaining up 3 and turn the work. Into the first stitch, we do a double, and then into each of the next 6 double crochet stitches, 1 in each. So we've got 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, then chain 1 to hop over that rivulet, and then into the next 6, 1 in each. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and yes, this last one, I almost made that mistake. This last one, we do 2. So it starts with 2 doubles in the first one, then 6, chaining 1, 6, and then 2 in the last one. And that completes the first quadrant. Now, the remaining 3 quadrants are going to be the exact same thing. I'm going to do one more for you. So chain 2. So the first double needs 2 doubles in the quadrant, and then 6 regular doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 2 in the last. And then, of course, you would chain 2, and then continue on to do 2 in the first, 1 in each of the 6, chain 1, 1 in each of the 6, and then 2 in the last one, and do the exact same thing for the last quadrant. So I'm going to leave you to do the next 2 quadrants on your own. You can do it. Just be sure to do 2 in the first and last of each quadrant. I can't stress that enough. So I'm going to meet back up with you for row 10. All right, row 10. So again, I'm going to start by chaining up 3 and turn the work and do a double into that same first stitch that we've got 2 at the beginning edge. And then let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So in the next 7 double crochets, 1 in each. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, and then after skipping this space, 7 into the next, 1 in each. That's 1. Didn't get both loops there. All right, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then 2 in the last double crochet of the quadrant. All right. So it's growing. So we've got 2 in the first, 2 in the last, and then 7 on each side of the chain 1 space. Okay, so then to go on to the next quadrant, chain 2, 2 double crochets into the first, and then 1 in each for the next 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skipping that chain space, going to the next 7, 1 in each. And 3, and 4, and 5, 6, and 7, and then 2 into the last double crochet of the quadrant, like so. And because it's going to be the exact same thing for the next 2 quadrants, I'm going to leave you here. I'm sure you guys can do this. This is really simple. So again, be sure to chain 2 in between your quadrants, 2 doubles in the first, then 7 regular double crochets, chain 1, 7 crochets, 7 double crochets, excusez-moi, 2 in the last, chain 2, 2 in the first, 7 across, chain 1, 7 across, 2 in the last one. And I will meet back up with you for row 11. Keep in mind, we already have, well, so far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of these eyelet rows. And then on the next we will have 6, and then that is when the repeat starts, because like I said, this is a 7 through 12 row repeat. And so we're getting there. All right, I'll meet back up with you for row 11. All right, row 11. All right, so again, we chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we turn the work. All right, and then into the first one, yep, we do another double crochet into that first one, then working our way across to the chain 1 space, it's 1 double crochet in each for a total of 8. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, chain 1, and then into the next 8 double crochets, 1 in each, skipping over that chain 1 space, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then into the last one, as per usual, 2 double crochets into that last stitch for the quadrant. All right, then chain 2. Then entering into the next quadrant, 2 doubles into the first. And pull out some more yarn. All right, so we've got 2 in the first, then 1 into each of the next 8. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, chain 1, and then skipping that chain 1 space, 8 into the next. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then 2 into the last double crochet of the quadrant. And then of course you would continue on in the same suit by doing a chain 2 to get to the next quadrant, 2 in the first, 8 across, chain 1, 8 across, 2 in the last, chain 2, 2 in the first, 8 across, chain 1, 8 across, 2 in the last. Always be sure to, as I've always said, 2 in the first and 2 in the last. Always, always, always for each quadrant. All right? And that will be the end of row 11. And then, yes, we have the fun row where we introduce a new bunch of rivulets. Okay. Alrighty, last but not least, row 12. Now, at this point, after working our way around here, all right, so you should have, at this point, 6 eyelet holes for each rivulet. You know, working our way around and so on and so forth, it should look like this. Now, keep in mind, an idea had occurred to me, okay, that if you did want a shawl with a flat top, as it were, instead of with the extra triangle, what you could conceivably do is, instead of having initially these 4 double crochets with 3 chain 2 spaces in between, remove one of the double crochets and chain 2 spaces so that you only have 3 double crochets with 2 chain 2 spaces, and then follow the pattern in exactly the same fashion, and then you would have a flat edge. Now keep in mind, if you do that, the bottom will not have a point to it. It'll be a flat, a flat edge at the bottom of the shawl. Personally, I like how this has at the bottom a nice point. That is, of course, a matter of personal opinion, but I thought it was worth mentioning that if you wanted to change the actual edge of the top, I thought it was worth mentioning. So we're on row 12, and we're going to continue to finish this repeat for the shawl, but again, it's a little thing I wanted to mention. I couldn't help myself. So for this row, the last row of the repeat, start by chaining up 3, and we turn the work and into that first stitch one more time. Yep, we do a double into that same first stitch, then into the next 3, just like we did on row 6. Into the next 3 doubles, we do 1 in each. So we have a total of 5 double crochets, just like down here, where we had a total of 5. Remember that? So going back up, we have our total of 5, then chain 1 and skip the next double crochet, and we're going to do another 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we reached another rivulet space. So chain 1, double crochet into each of the next 5. So we've got 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 5 double crochets, then chain 1, skip a double, going to the next 5, 1, 2, 3. We've only got 1 more, so we need to do 2 into this last, because it's the last stitch of the quadrant, because we need 5. Okay, so this one, yep, it was a little bit different, but this is, as you can see, like how we did right here, we introduced a new rivulet. Well, here we introduce 2 new rivulets. So we have a total of 5 doubles, because we got 2 in the first, then 3, then chain 1, total of 5, chain 1, total of 5, chain 1, total of 5, because this one is doubled at the end. All right, so then I'm going to do another quadrant for you, because I want to make sure that you guys get the gist. Not just the gist, but the understanding of it, how it works. So chain 2, because we're entering a new quadrant, do 2 doubles in the first. Okay, and then 3 regular doubles for a total of 5. Chain 1, skip a double, going into the next. So we've got 3 and 4 and 5. And we reached the space again, so chain 1, skip that space, going into the next, 3, and then 2 in the last. Oh, I misspoke myself. We've got 3, 4, and then right. So we've got the 5. Pardon me. Right, because we have our 2 in the first, then 3, chain 1, and then 5. And we got the space. We have our 5. We need another chain 1 space. Skip 1, go into the next 3. See, even I need to double check my work. So we've got 2, 3, and then 2 in the last for this quadrant. Like so. So we've got, this is our first quadrant. Okay. So in the second quadrant, we've got our chaining of 2, 5 total, chain 1, 5 total, chain 1, 5 total, chain 1, 5 total. All right, and I'm going to do next quadrant with you just so that we're clear. Chain 2, 2 doubles in the first, 3 doubles, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 1, going into the next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 1, skip that space, going to the next, 1, 2, come on now, 2, 3, 4, and 5, chain 1, skip 1, going to the next, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 in the last, 4, and 5. And then, of course, you would do the same thing for the last quadrant as well. And then, so you would continue going on with rows 7 through 10 in the regular fashion, where you would do 2 in the first, and then an additional 4, chain 1, 1 in each, chain 1, 1 in each, chain 1, 1 in each, and then 2 in the last, And so we just follow suit with the repeat. It's rows 7 through 12. And you could end on a row 12, or you could end on a row 7. It's personal preference, I would say. But, it's a really easy pattern. And I just want to finish this row, and then we'll finish up there. All right, so as you can see, I finished row 12, and I have eyelets on either side of the main rivulet line down the center of each quadrant. And as long as you keep in mind how the formation of the pattern works, where the spinal lines in between each quadrant, those remain consistent, and the rivulet lines, these main lines, they don't go away, they stay there. And then after you have, see, we have 1 hole right now on each side. Once you have a total of 6, the following row, you're going to introduce new eyelets on either side of the existing rivulet rows. So as long as you keep that in mind, and that for each quadrant you begin and end with 2 doubles in each, you'll be fine. And just refer back to the video if you need. But once you get to a certain point, as long as you understand the rules of how the pattern works, you won't have a problem. Okay? So, as always, I really hope that you like this video, as I hope that you like all of them. If you did, please hit the little thumbs up button down below, because I appreciate your support very, very much. And, I would love to see Purpleiguana come out with more patterns because, as I said before, I do love them. I love their simplicity and their elegance combined, and they're a lot of fun to do. So, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't hit subscribe, please do so as well, because I do try to post as often as I can, whether it's crocheting, knitting, or audiobook narration. Also, again, please do visit my other YouTube channel. Shameless shout out, I know, Fiber Spider Games for video game playthrough. It's a lot of fun. Would love to see you there too, and the support is always appreciated. So until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.